Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us at Space Cowboy Books Online. I'm your host, Jean Paul Garnier, and we are here for Flash Science Fiction Night with featured readers Renan Bernardo, James Machell, and Marie Vibbert. We're going to open up the show with Renan. Renan Bernardo is a Nebula and Ignite finalist author of science fiction and fantasy from Brazil. His fiction has appeared in Reactor, Tor.com, Clark's World, Apex Magazine, and elsewhere. His dark sci-fi novella, Disgraced Return of the Cap's Needle, was published in 2025 by Dark Matter Inc. He's going to be sharing a story with us called Premium Resurrection Pack, $99, that was first featured in Space Cowboys Simultaneous Times podcast. Over to you, Henan.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, Jumpo. And so, Premium Resurrection Pack, $99. Full mind backup and body upload included for $99. No ads, no separate model purchases. Sir, Ronnie went to the movies every weekend, drank his share of good wine, and occasionally indulged in half-century old scotch. But $100 was too much for a product from Cloudmind Enterprises, a company filled with youngsters who had barely made it out of high school. Are you sure you don't want the full version, sir? Asked the sales bot in the augmentation store. Free is all I need, he said, before the sales bot could babble its default wheedling. So he bought the Resurrection Pack, full mind backup and body upload included. He liked to think he exchanged the word premium for a few ignorable ads and the safety of his $99, which he instead spent on 2 bottles of Malbec. He was no fool. That was the right place for his money. At home, he put on the input cap to back up all his valuable thoughts to the cloud server of CloudMind Enterprises. After it was all set up and ready to start, he opened one of the Malbecs to celebrate his thrift. When the Holo projected progress bar time complete, taking a drive to visit his ex-wife at 2 in the morning seemed like a good idea. Why not? Ronnie never saw the garbage truck. What a sight! Ronnie had never imagined death would be so pleasant. He posed and grinned at his reflection. He didn't have bulging muscles, but neither did he have crooked teeth. His face wasn't free of wrinkles, but hair didn't find a lair inside his ears. Happy ending. 4 years had passed since the accident. According to CloudMind, it was the time they needed to develop their bioreplacement bodies. Ronnie's bank accounts had been reactivated, inflation adjusted, and a CloudMind-owned house had been assigned to him. All the recommended procedures for how to reintroduce himself to friends and family and how to re-enter the labor markets were things he would leave for another week. For a month or two, Ronnie intended to enjoy a post-death vacation, with copious amounts of wine, of course. The streets were full and the buildings completely renovated with renewable energy production, automatic waste management, and auto-cleaning windows. The most boggling thing, though, was the CloudMind Enterprises logo. It was everywhere, from TV ads and outdoors to holograph projections and toast stamps. On his way to wine style, a jolt ran through his neck. He was compelled to turn his head to the left. You want to lose weight? An overly smiling woman said on the TV inside the showcase to his left. Ronnie's hearing amplified and focused on it. Try our new products. No, he wasn't overweight. He hadn't been before, and he surely wasn't now. But he couldn't take his eyes off the TV. He tried to look just a little bit to the side, but his pupils were automatically pulled to the weight loss product, and everything around it blurred. The commercial ended. Ron's head eased up, and his sight cleared up. The ad, he said it out loud to himself. But I thought, no way. It should have been ads on his phone and tablet. Bells pealed at Weinstein's door as he entered. I want 5 of those. He pointed at a rack. Still wouldn't do anymore. He needed more to think about the ads. The sales bot opened its hand and he pressed his thumb on its palm. A red light flashed on its wrist. Sorry, sir. You don't have the model to purchase alcohol. What the hell does that mean? Oh, but he knew. His new life was freemium. I should have paid the $99. He snickered with clenched teeth and snatched up his outdated smartphone to check CloudMind's status. The full version for people who have already used the system costs $9,900. Sir, you can buy $99,000, sorry. Sir, you can buy the model, said the salesman. He touched his smartphone and saw it. 3 month alcohol pack, $19. He purchased it and left with 5 bottles of Pinot Noir. But once at home, he couldn't focus on the TV. West Korea's nuclear crisis and the new wall across the Canadian border seemed like small issues when compared to his condition. He had already died. His body had been crushed by garbage, and now he had to live like an ad consumer machine. Okay, he had his second chance in life, but it wasn't working properly. He had a right to the service warranty. Ronnie started his old car, intended to drive to CloudMind headquarters, but almost veered off through his neighbor's front garden. Oh, yeah, another $19 gone for the 3 month driving pack. License does not include parking. Before he could even reach CloudMind, he had already spent $280 in 3 months parking skills. License does not include tight spaces, 6 months shoelace tying, and lifetime basic math. And the worst of it all, he couldn't purchase new abilities like 1 year French speaking or 7 months swimming, stamina pack sold separately. He could only unlock what he knew in his ugly bodied incarnation. He lurched inside CloudMind's headquarters. I demand the full version, Ronnie yelled. Suited people glared at the weirdo. By the looks on their faces, he wasn't the first. You're stealing my money. Sir, relax. The full version is always available. A woman stood in front of him, an unfading smile engraved on her face. Her tag read, Miss Sucker, Dissatisfaction PR. Selling my soul, maybe? Sir, you accepted our terms of service when you acquired the free version. The smile persisted. This can't be legal, Ronnie clenched his teeth. Give me the full version or I will sue you. Miss Sucker sighed, her smile fading. Okay, sir. Would you mind if I switch you to another version? Ad-free? No need for models? Well, yes, he opened his arms. Miss Sucker touched a gleaming icon on her bio-tattooed wrist and indicated his smartphone with her chin. Read the terms and accept them. Ronnie stared at his phone for 2 seconds and tapped accept. Sir, Miss Tucker said, rolling her eyes. Never mind. She turned her back and left. Was that hard? He yelled at her before she entered her office. Thank you for understanding my rights. Ronnie laughed, smiling. He was no fool. CloudMine Enterprises is the future, said the bot in an outdoor announcement. Your future, our future. With our services, the worldwide economy has grown 287%. I want 10 of those, Ronnie pointed at the rack in wine style. The sales bot opened its palm for the payment. Before he could reach it with his thumb, a jolt ran through his neck. His sight blurred. A voice in his head said, CloudMine Enterprises thanks you for us using your services. He fell hard on the floor. Ronnie never saw the end date of his trial resurrection pack, valid only for 7 days. The end.
Thank you so much, Hanan. The most common lie ever told. I have read the terms and conditions. Next up, we have James Machell. James writes a bit of everything: prose, poetry, articles, and far fetched plans to save the world. He conducts interviews for Utopia Science Fiction magazine, writes for the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction, and is currently in the middle of chairing the Science Fiction and Fantasy Poetry Association's yearly contest. He is also looking to remonetize his much neglected YouTube channel, so look out for new videos from Fell Purpose. He'll be sharing a story with us called Hair of the Dog, which first appeared in Sci-Fi Journal.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. We'll get started. Hair of the Dog. All I remember from high school religious history was that people used to believe in a deity who created them to appreciate and acknowledge his love. The lesson resonated with me because at the time I was experimenting with some of the biomaterials my grandmother got for my birthday. She brought a dog last year, but no matter how long we spent in the park together, it showed no more affection than the occasional wag of its tail. Dad warned me to be patient. The only way to bypass the years it took to build up genuine affection was to be the creature's mother, which gave me an idea. Using this year's present, I induced pluripotency in the cells for loose hair and used them to develop a new dog, but with my own genes and her DNA. The result was a pet like my old one, except for the ability to comprehend the privilege of being taken on walks by superior beings. "Nice dreams?" I asked one morning, as she stirred from the foot of my bed. The dog nodded enthusiastically. It was still a dog, and hadn't the vocal cords, let alone the articulacy, to describe what she was dreaming about. I think it was Wittgenstein who said that if an animal could speak, we wouldn't be able to understand it. And he must have been onto something. But when I showed my dog a diagram of the emotional spectrum and asked her to tap on her feelings, she didn't seem to know what I was talking about. The dog simply was, every sensation blurring seamlessly together, as if life was an event that happened all at once. I read somewhere that dogs even process time differently to us, at a different speed or something. It made me think that if there really was a God who existed outside the universe and within eternity, we wouldn't be able to understand him either. I named her Eve, after the first woman, which I found especially poetic as the family dog was called Adam, and she came from his side. It was strange to stare it was strange to stare at myself in her eyes when they were so similar to mine. This distracted me from our board game, and I couldn't help feeling humiliated when, pushing pieces with her nose, she put me in checkmate. The phone narrowly saved me from having to topple my king. It was the boy who sat next to me in science class. We spent our free periods in an art room when no one was around, and he wanted to meet that afternoon. His love might not have been as abundant as that of my pet, who carried on nuzzling my leg as we spoke, but it was given for its own sake, rather than food, a place to sleep, which made it all the more special. "Meet you at 5, I said, hanging up, having agreed to hang out at the mall. I was so excited about our first rendezvous in public that I completely forgot my parents were out all day, leaving no one to mind our dogs. This wasn't a problem for Adam, who kept quiet, so long as he had food and water. But Eve wasn't so simple. Intelligent enough to unlock doors, without the moral capacity to understand why it was wrong to chase cars or frighten the neighbor's cat, she kept me prisoner whenever we had the house to ourselves. My parents grounded me for a week the last time she got out, and since I was neither willing to cancel my date nor go to the effort of padlocking the windows, I grabbed a bottle of pesticide from below the sink. Eve had some conception of death, having whimpered when my grandmother gave in to old age, but clearly none of her own. Though she grimaced at the taste, she kept on lapping, unable to conceive of it being anything other than medicine. The first symptom of organophosphate poisoning was bewilderment. Her pupils dilated, and she wandered around the house like Dad after drinking beer. As later symptoms included vomiting and loss of bowel control, I covered the area around her basket with tissue paper and placed her in it to die. She snarled and gave up on life as I was putting on makeup, staring at me with her enormous dead eyes, as if to ask how I could have done this to her. But I didn't feel bad, because I was a god now, and could resurrect her genes with another hair. And that's the end.
Thank you so much, James. Next up, we have Marie Vibbert. Hugo and Nebula nominated author Marie Vibbert's short fiction has appeared in over 90 times in top magazines like Nature, Analog, and Clark's World, and has been translated into Czech, Chinese, and Vietnamese. Her debut novel, Galactic Hellcats, was longlisted for the British Science Fiction Award. And her work has been called Everything Science Fiction Should Be by the Oxford Culture Review. She also writes poetry, comics, and computer games. By day, she is a computer programmer in Cleveland, Ohio. And this evening, she's going to be sharing a story with us called Yarn Theory, which first appeared in Clark's World.
Okay. Hi. Yarn Theory. The mathematician sits on the window seat in her apartment in Krakow, the cat asleep next to her, and a cascade of houseplant tendrils gently screening the light. She is knitting a sweater and thinking of number theory as she calculates reducing a 7-stitch lace pattern into 5. Yarn over, knit front, knit back, slip, slit, knit. Madame Defarge never discloses the mechanism of her knitted code in A Tale of Two Cities. Most assume binary, but it could have been hexadecimal. Make one right, make one left, purl front and back. The mathematician should be proofing that article and grading papers and planning that conference trip to Budapest, not to mention starting dinner. Her husband is out tonight, attending a lecture on medieval coins. She has a news podcast on for background noise, but when they start talking about the alien message, it pulls her attention like an unraveling thread. She sets down her knitting. The cat stirs, but settles. You can download the entire message received from the aliens on SETI's website. It's incredible. I've been listening to it while I walk my dog in the morning. Can we play a sample? Well, yes, just a few minutes. That's okay, right, Pyotr? Pyotr's our producer. He's nodding from the booth. Okay, here we go. She picks up her knitting. Now is not the time to fall down a research rabbit hole, like the year she spent working on that novel about a romance set inside the Solidarity movement in the 1980s. She nearly lost a fellowship and never did come up with a good ending to the novel. The podcast plays the less alien part of the message, actually, the human part, which they reflected back at Earth. The message content itself is unknown, but the human part says clearly, "We have heard you." She thinks about translation, the Rosetta Stone, transliteration. She also thinks about how mathematics is a language. Some used to say a universal language, but that's not quite accurate. There are other mathematics, not just different base systems, but we're talking about constructivism, set theory, MLTT, COC. What might an alien mathematics look like? Her thoughts wander. How the Egyptians could use pi without having the formula. The ridiculous utility of math. The way the model keeps working. Was it simply that humanity needed it to? Her reduction plan is not working. The lace has gotten too tight. The knit front and back she was doing to replace the knit 3 into 1 does not take up 2/3 of the space, and this raglan sleeve will bunch. She undoes the row and sets the needles down, looking for some scrap paper to help with working it out. The thing with lace patterns is this: it is not binary. The lace mesh is not simply a matrix like grid paper. It's squishy. Yarn theory. She'd done a paper on fuzzy logic in undergrad, and the term comes back to her. The start of a pun. She picks up her laptop. She had downloaded the alien message, like everyone else. Most people were enchanted with the chirps and beeps between the repeated human recording, the alien music they called it. A hip-hop artist has already released a remix of it that's taking over dance parties. She isolates just that section. She transforms the beeps into a code system. A for the high pitch, B for the low, C for the flutter, D for the sound like a whippoorwill. She realizes with delight that she could use her knitting pattern software to lay things out visually. She decides on knit for A, purl for B, yarn over for C. Her initial analysis, like that of other mathematicians and codebreakers worldwide, fails to find a compelling solution. It's not binary. They know that for sure, nor trinary. She starts with hex. Assume an alien Madame Defarge. There are 13 identified sounds in the mix, but perhaps one is simply punctuation. Perhaps others are mood, inflection, a happy set and a sad set, a subjunctive case. Ultimately, it has to be played with. False leaves have to be followed until they prove to be false. Math is a language, but how much can you say in math? How do you express yourself beautifully, subtly? Music, they say, is the poetry of mathematics. What if the aliens are as concerned with being poetic as being understood? Her husband comes home to find her in the midst of a mess of different yarns. Knitting. Failed versions lay all around her. This one, however, is forming something like the pattern on the Voyager disk. A sun with rays, and then another sun, different rays, and 3 squiggly things. It's almost random, but it isn't. He stares. Do I want to ask? For a beat, she can't form a response. I think I've knitted the answer, she says. She stretches the fabric with her fingers and lays it flat on her thigh to show the detail. It's something like a cuttlefish. Only one form, but 3 repeats, and I'm not sure if that means 3 sexes or some other basic division. And there's this little mass of round dots. Under them, eggs. They lay eggs. Her fingers hover, hesitating before touch. But she's already picking up another knitting experiment. She doesn't see his expression go from confusion to something like horror. The aliens? Then here, look, the code changes, or something changes. I can't see what the rest of it means, but just this image. Maybe this is the introduction, or it's a key for the rest. Or it could be a warning, it could be a threat, it could be the universal theory. Her husband clears his throat. It could be time for a shot of whiskey. But he doesn't go to the decanter. He tangles her hands and is soon knit fast to her. They vibrate together with fearful joy. She burns to move but accepts the pause. She thinks about actions that don't need translation. The end.
Thank you, Marie. Have you knit this yet? Are you going to?
People keep asking me, do you have that as a pattern?
We all want to see it now. Thank you so much. Lovely stories, all. You just heard Marie Vibbert with Yarn Theory. Before that, James Machell with Hair of the Dog, and opening the program, Renan Bernardo with Premium Resurrection Pack, $99. Thank you so much to our readers for tonight. Thank you to the audience for being here. And we hope you can join us on August 5th for the next Flash Science Fiction Night, which will feature authors Eliane Bui, Susan Palumbo, and Pedro Iniguez. So bound to be a wonderful night of stories. Thank you so much, and everyone have a wonderful night.